Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fire Up! Are we fired up tonight, guys, or what?
I am.
Fired up. Yes, I am. I'm fired up because I saw a name I never thought would see another job get after the Browns. Bob Quinn was brought in as a scouting advisor.
Yeah, he was bought into Atlanta as a senior advisor. So I don't know exactly what he's going to be doing. But yeah. I remember his track record in Detroit as a general manager isn't very good.
So here's what I have to say. If he's telling you that someone might be good at an offensive line, he's right 80% of the time.
Yeah.
But stealing the Bears GM there,
he was the assistant general manager.
Yeah, the assistant general manager of the Browns. The Browns have been trying to steal Dorsey back from us for 2 straight seasons, and Dorsey just keeps telling them, no.
Well, but the Falcons are hiring Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham as their general manager.
Yep.
Right.
That's a good hire for you guys.
That is a good hire.
Yeah, I was going to get into that on my town or whenever.
And then Sean Mannion, your QB coach, is now the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles for the Packers. Packers QB coach is now the offensive coordinator of the Eagles.
We've lost a lot of our coaches.
I know. I'm like going, what the heck? What's going on? You guys are losing everybody.
Well, maybe we needed a change too, though. So sometimes that's not a bad thing.
The only thing about that is that he's had 2 years of coaching experience in the NFL and he's never called plays.
Right.
So my thing is, how is that going to gel with the personnel they have? Because you don't know if AJ Brown's going to be there. The offensive line is going to be a little older. So I think those are some things. And then, apparently what surprised me is that none of the is how many people turned the job down. That was what surprised me.
The other one that surprised me is Todd Monken getting the nod after being hired as OC for the Giants, getting the nod as head coach when Jim Schwartz was begging them to make him the head coach.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that defense the last 2 seasons, they probably wouldn't have won a game.
I agree.
All right, we got Ken Drickles in there saying go Hawks, and we got Ariana Hernandez saying hi. And of course, my buddy, MDE, I call him, Michael Ditton Edwards. Yes, and it has been a crazy coaching carousel. Last week I was talking about Drew Petzing with you guys, and then we turn around and add Mike Kafka to the offensive coordinator room. And he was the guy that I actually said, oh, I love that. That's my nickname because I've been calling for people to go certain places, and it happens a couple days later, kind of like Mike McCarthy to the Steelers. I said that is the name I'm hearing more than anybody else. And Adam was like, oh, God, I don't want him. And where'd he go? The Steelers. And I'm going to say this right now with Jim Schwartz being upset, and I'm going to put it on this show because I already put it on my show. I think the perfect fit, even though he's not an offensive-minded coach, is right there in Las Vegas to help with Mendoza, because guess who was Matt Stafford's first head coach? Jim Schwartz. And by year 3, Matt Stafford was in the playoffs with Detroit, a team that hadn't been in Detroit since Barry retired.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different movement with coaches, not just head coaches. I don't know that I don't think he's a nightmare on Elm Street.
I am honestly surprised at how negative the feedback or how negative the reception is from Steelers fans about the hire. I mean,
Well,
I don't think it's a great hire by any means. I thought they would continue their trend of another young defensive coordinator. So I thought they would have hired Chris Shula from the Rams. But McCarthy by any means is not a terrible hire.
I don't think he's terrible. I think he's just not their first choice, and everybody that they did want before him was already gone.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's at.
I think also for them, they feel like it's keeping the status quo for Steeler fans. I think a lot of them apparently wanted a rebuild instead of the status quo of going maybe 9-8, 10-7.
Making the playoffs and have a first-round exit like McCarthy did with Dallas. And that's where I'm at with it. They feel like they're going from, what was it Adam called them? Oh, no, it wasn't Adam.
A lateral move.
No, Robbie DeFeo. He said it. He goes, so we went from one mediocre Mike to another mediocre Mike.
No.
But I'm sitting there and I'm still going to say, as a Lions fan, as long as we went without a winning coach here,
right?
I mean, Caldwell was a winner, but he was way more mediocre the last few seasons than he was great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mike McCarthy had some good years in Green Bay, so I really can't knock him. What it depends on is who he gets for his coaches around him and whether he allows them to coach and call plays or not.
Right, because when he had Kellen Moore with him down there and he let Kellen Moore call plays, that was an electric offense that year. Their defense was crap, which that has nothing to do with Mike McCarthy. That had to do with Zimmer.
Right. Yeah, so I'm not gonna. I know a lot of people are really negative on this hire. I'm not so sure because I think Mike McCarthy is happy to be there. He's home. He's been very emotional about it. I'm gonna reserve my judgment. I want to see who he gets around him. I think that makes a difference. I do know that they have put a deadline on Rodgers. They gave him a month to decide whether he's going to be back or not, so that they can then decide where they need to go. Whether that remains to be seen. We'll see whether Rodgers. I don't know if McCarthy coming there accelerates his decision or to retire or come back. I'm not sure, but
apparently he said he was going to go on another one of his retreats.
I'm sure.
Oh boy. But at the same time, Aaron Rodgers is the one that told Pittsburgh front office that he would come back if they hired McCarthy. Despite the whole differences they had at the end, and yes, he was a part of the reason why Mike McCarthy was let go in Green Bay instead of being re-signed. At the same time, they remained friends after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't he have a role in him getting fired from Green Bay?
That's what I said. He had a role in him not being re-signed in Green Bay because they went from the Super Bowl to meh that next season.
Mm-hmm.
Still did enough to win the division, but it wasn't as good as they could have been. It took that Hail Mary to beat Detroit to get them the division.
No, he was fired years after the Super Bowl, I think.
He coached the Super Bowl that Aaron Rodgers won.
Yeah, and then I think then they had some years where they had lost in the playoffs. They couldn't get over the hump, and then one year they ended up missing the playoffs and they fired him.
You want to talk about fleecing an organization? Matt Patricia getting the defensive coordinator at week 11 for Philly that year?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the fleecing.
Yeah.
Because didn't they go weren't they 10-1 and then they went 1-6 the last 7 games?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the only reason they won the one game, it wasn't because of the defense, it's because Jalen Hurts made a heck of a throw to A.J. Brown that game, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But
So
I heard that AJ Brown is going to be fixed this offseason because when he gets released or traded from Philly, he plans on having that cranial anal removal program.
oh my goodness. Okay, so we had 2 champion playoff games this past weekend. We predicted them last week. Let's recap what happened. I mean, what are your thoughts? Let's start with the first game, the Patriots Broncos game.
If they'd either kicked the field goal or ran for that first down on the 4th and 1,
if they had just taken the points, they would have won.
Yep, or got the first down on the ground. Putting it in the hands of Jared Stidham to make a play when he was starting to get flustered after that good drive he had was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, and my thought is they should have definitely kicked that field goal early on. They knew the weather reports, and if you didn't, then I'm sorry, you're not coaching. You're not in the right position. But you should have known the weather reports going in that the weather was going to get horrible in the second half. And so what you do is you get as many points as you can in the first half. So they should have kicked that field goal instead of going for it. And I understand, Jeremy, you think they could have ran it. I get that. But I still say in the playoffs, you haven't been there in how long? You're playing with a backup quarterback. You need as many points as possible. So
no different than Chicago in both of their games in the first half of their games. If they'd have took their 3 field goals instead of going for it on 4th down, the one game wouldn't have been close versus the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And the other game would have never went to overtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, the weather was crazy in that second half of that game. I mean, watching them trying to see what yard lines and to even see the Patriots with their uniforms because they blended so much with the snow.
And I think that's what led to that last interception.
Yeah.
Literally when he threw it, I didn't even see Christian Gonzalez till he caught the ball.
I didn't see him either because it was snowy. I could barely see anything. I just saw the ball floating.
I saw the ball floating and I seen it and it was on target and all of a sudden it wasn't there. And I saw that number of Christian Gonzalez turn towards the camera. I was like, oh, there is blue there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and then I think just another takeaway is that once a majority of the league is playing in an indoor stadium in like 10 years, we're gonna look back at games like this and say, maybe, and we're gonna say we took these for granted.
But Michael Edwards asked me to talk about my idea about uniforms in bad weather. If they know snow is going to hit at any time during the game, maybe let the away team wear their alternate home uniforms instead to stop that thing from happening, because white is everybody's road uniform. So if you know it's going to be outside and in the snow, the alternate uniform would at least not be able to have somebody blend in.
Yep, I agree. That's a pretty good assessment. I never thought about it, but I don't think it ever really played a factor until this game, because this game was really bad. Like you guys said, you couldn't see that their uniforms. So yeah, I felt bad for the Broncos, but hey, it's the way it happens. There's got to be a winner, and there's
always got to be a loser.
Yep. So let's go to the other game. I think most of us, or if not all of us, predicted Seattle to take that game. That defense is pretty legit.
I predicted the Rams mainly because I felt like their defense could get enough stops and their experience both on a coaching and personnel side, but would take over late in the game. But clearly that didn't happen. They came close, but that didn't happen. But I think it was a great game like we expected. Both games during the regular season were good games. But I feel like that game was basically the Super Bowl. Like the winner of that game was probably going to beat New England, I think. And I'm sticking with that. I think Seattle's going to beat New England.
And we found out Tuesday
Yeah.
they don't know if he's going to be able to play yet or not. He's having an MRI tomorrow, and that's Drake
Who?
May injured his throwing shoulder
That he did.
in that game. So they still don't know what's going on. They don't know the extent of how bad it is. So he hasn't been practicing all this week, but it's Pro Bowl week, so that really doesn't matter. So having the MRI and allowing him to rest it, they want to see if it's going to be healed enough that he can get his full rotation. And if he can't get his full rotation and the Patriots have to start Josh Dobbs next week, he might as well just hand the trophy to Sam Darnold and the Seahawks.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, if he's 75% over 50, even 50%, he's going to play.
Right. Absolutely.
But my thing is, I think with that being said, I think Sam Darnold, I think at every turn disproved a lot of narratives where, his success in Minnesota is largely due to Kevin O'Connell and that offensive scheme and having Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and the weapons they have over there. He went and disproved that. Jackson Smith-Njigba just had a career year, the best season for a wide receiver in Seahawks history. Credit to them, they rebuilt their offensive line, which is one of the worst in the league. They rebuilt to this past offseason. Cooper Kupp played a solid wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 option. And then, of course, you have the 2 running backs, one of the better running back duos in the NFL, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So Sam Darnold disproved that narrative. He showed up in big games time and time again. And then in the playoffs, when he didn't play well in Minnesota against the Rams, had a horrible game, played great in both of their games. So credit to him, he disproved a lot of narratives. Christian Ellis, is that what you're talking about? Charbonnet is out, yeah.
Yeah, Charbonnet's out probably for part of next year too, because that was an ACL tear. Matt Collins has been limited all week due to a abdomen injury. Terrell Jennings, the past concussion protocol, so he returns back to the alignment. Harold Landry, the linebacker, is who he's talking about. He's the one that's out. And then they also lost linebacker Robert Spillane in that game versus Denver.
Oh, never mind. Robert Spillane, not Christian Ellis.
Yep. Christian Ellis, it was a strain, so they expect him to play. Charles Cross did not participate today for the Seahawks. And Eric Saubert, the tight end, but he's like third on the depth chart.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal. Everybody else was either limited, and Amari Knight, the backup tackle to Charles Cross, did not practice today as well. So it's probably, and it's due to his knee. He hasn't practiced all week. We may want to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think most people are going to pick Seattle. I don't think most people.
I just think up and down they're the better team. New England's had a great season, and I don't want to discredit New England, but I saw a stat earlier. I think I have it saved.
They beat one team with the record over 500 all season, and
they beat one team. That was the Bills in that Sunday night game in Buffalo.
Yep.
And then another fascinating stat is they played 11 games this season against teams that ended up firing their head coach. So, I mean, look,
you can't make it up.
Yeah, so look, I mean, you can't discredit them because look, it's the NFL. Any team can win any given week. You play the team in front of you. Vrabel is a great coach. He might win Coach of the Year. Drake May is a good quarterback. They have a good team over there, obviously. But my thing is, you can't say that they have not had one of the easier paths to a Super Bowl in recent memory. They went up against an injured offensive line with the Chargers. The Texans' offensive line was injured. Nico Collins was out, and then you have in Denver, if Bo Nix was playing, or if Sean Payton just took the points in the first half or ran the ball, the Broncos win that game. So I don't want to discredit them, but they have had one of the easier paths to a Super Bowl in recent memory.
But if you talk about the defenses they faced to win those games, still they played the number 1, the number 2, and the number 5 defenses so far in the playoff. And
that's why I'm not discrediting their run. But
I'm not discrediting the easy schedule thing, because if you're going to do that, then you got to say, well, that's the only reason why Chicago Bears won the division. They had the easiest schedule in the NFC, and they had a losing record in their division, yet still won the division because they had more wins. Because that's the main thing, is wins.
Yeah, and as I just said, to mention both sides of the argument is, look, again, it's the NFL. Any team can win any given week. I mean, they lost to the Raiders week 1, so it's you play the team in front of you, and credit to them. They took care of the teams they need to take care of. And I think what is more impressive about it is they went undefeated on the road the entire season. They're the first team in NFL history, I think, to go 9-0 on the road in the regular season and in the playoffs.
Yeah, I believe I heard that stat, the same stat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think this year there was more parity in the league overall. I mean, you didn't have the dominant, the Chiefs weren't dominant, Eagles weren't dominant like they have been in the past.
You could argue Seattle.
Yeah, you could. But other than that, there wasn't too many, any given week, any given team could have, I mean, maybe not the Jets, but everybody else, this year has been different, I would say, in that regard. And some of the teams that we thought going in that were projected to do really well, injuries really bit them, and they weren't, like the Lions. Who would have thought they would have dropped from the, a year ago? And granted, I know they lost both OC and DC, and that matters, but the Chiefs, who would have seen them fall, obviously, but an injury to your star quarterback matters.
Yeah. Speaking of the Lions losing their DC, Aaron Glenn fired basically his entire staff this week.
Oh, it's
like awful. For me, I don't get it. Like, I'm trying to I just thought the same thing when the Falcons do something dumb. Like, where's the thought process? I don't get the thought process. I don't see it.
There's the list of everybody that Aaron Glenn got rid of as far as the main names on the team. But there's one I want to point out here because I find it kind of funny. His assistant DBs coach, Dre Bly, and other defensive assistants. Do you realize while he was a DC with the Lions, he fired Dre Bly there too, yet he picked him up to try and coach the Jets.
Yeah, and my thing is, outside of the fact that he fired Ben Johnson's passing game coordinator, which was Tanner Engstrom's role. But my thing is, and I guess one argument he has in his favor is that, especially after they sold off those pieces at the deadline, the Jets roster is awful. Nobody could win with that roster. It's kind of eerily similar to the roster that Dan Campbell inherited year 1, except the Lions were in almost all their games in year 1 of Dan Campbell. The Jets were just getting smoked.
They got boat raced.
And then my thing is,
I'm going to defend 2 of the firings, and that's Tanner Engstrom and the QB's coach. In week 4, Justin Fields, net passing yards were less than everybody on this panel.
And then
negative 10 yards.
My only thing about Aaron Glenn is that as He's a defensive-minded head coach. It's his calling card. He was an all-pro defensive back for a long time. It just looks really bad. Like, you're not supposed to be an all-pro defensive back with a defensive background as a head coach and not have your team record a single interception the entire season. Like, that can't happen.
I could understand if they were like the 49ers and had the 32nd pass rush. I could understand it then. But the bad part is about this, that's the first time in NFL history any team did not record at least one interception. And as bad as the defenses were in Detroit, even before Dan Campbell got here, and let's face it, yardage-wise, our defenses were bad. We never had an Ofer in the interception column.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sad for head coach that was a DC before that. I'm going to quick shout out because we have a comment in the chat that I think we should acknowledge. And yes, Patty, we can all say a prayer for your brother Dennis, who lost his house in a fire in Grand Blanc.
Yeah, prayers up, Patty. Email me his last name, and I'll ask the Lions faithful tomorrow to say prayers for him.
If the Jets were a sixth-grade boy, they would not.
Right. Oh my God.
Yes, this is true though. The 76 Tampa Bay Bucks that lost every game in the season had a better defense than the Jets this past season. How sad is that? The 2008 Lions defense.
Yeah, I was about to say.
We lost 11 games by one score that year. Our defense was better than the Jets' current defense and lost every single game.
Wow. Yeah, that's sad. And I think it probably came down to, and we talk about like Aaron Glenn got rid of everybody. I wonder if management went to him and said, it's either you or it's everybody else. Like you take your pick. Like, because obviously things didn't work the way you had them this year. We've got to make changes. So you tell me what that means. So,
but now the only thing about that is who's going, like, the good coaches are not going to want to work for a coach that's probably on the hot seat now. I would assume he is, because you don't fire your entire coaching staff if you're not on shaky ground with the front office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he tried to take our defensive back coach, the current one, to be his defensive coordinator. He couldn't get him, so he stole the defensive passing game coordinator from Miami, which was his old safeties coach, Brian Duker, when he was with the Lions. He keeps dipping into the same coaching pool.
And Patty, there's a good suggestion. Is there a GoFundMe page for your brother?
And if not, see if the church would use their website that you guys go to for a donation page, because sometimes churches will do that for families in emergency situations. Mm-hmm. Either would be fine.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of coaches that are looking for assistant coaches and a lot of movement going on. I mean, let's face it, the Dolphins are now becoming Green Bay South. They've hired so many of our coaches. Like it's unbelievable how many coaches, honestly, that they've taken. But, Matt LaFleur is going to have to go out there and find some replacements and see what he can do. And sometimes change isn't necessarily a bad thing. And she says no, but she said that's a good idea. Thank you.
No problem. I'm just trying to help. GoFundMe takes a good chunk of the percentage right off the top. So whatever amount of money they need to get by, make sure you go that 20% over. So that way when they take their fees, you get what you actually need for them, because they take 20% off the top for administration fees.
Did not know that.
So if they need 10,000, make sure you add that 20% in and say you need 12.5, just to be safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl, because I don't know how many of you know what happens. Like, this is my first time covering the Senior Bowl. I had never been here and never knew what to expect. Pleasantly surprised. I can tell you, Monday they had opening statements. They had some. We were not there. We did not get in town for Monday. We got in town for Tuesday. Tuesday was the first practice. So they have two different teams. They break them into the National and the American. The National practice from 1:30 till 3:30, and then at 3:30 they let the media down onto the field with the players there, and there's a 10-minute free-for-all. Get as many interviews or talk to whoever you'd like, but you literally only have 10 minutes. It's a clock, and it counts down, and they shoo you off the field after that 10-minute run. And then at 4:00, the other team practices for 2 hours. And then again at 6:00, that same 10-minute window opens up for you. So you go you get to the field and you try and get as many people as you can and interview as many as you can. And then Wednesday, they did have media day. So at the convention center downtown, they brought in some of the players, and some of them, like the quarterbacks, they sat on a podium and you could talk to, but it was in a room with all the reporters, and they came in. And so everyone was trying to ask questions of various different players. And then again, the practice Wednesday afternoon, practices today. Tomorrow there's like a Mardi Gras parade and some other events like that. No real interaction with the players. And then Saturday's the game. Now they are calling for it to be cold down here in Mobile. I think the high is supposed to be 36 or 39 degrees. And that might not sound real cold for those of you that are up north, but to be playing outside football in that temperature. And there is a fairly good breeze inside this stadium, so it could be cold. But I am happy to report that if you wait a little bit, you will find Scott has done, I would probably venture to say, maybe close to 20 different interviews. Now, some of them are only a minute and a half long. Some of them are a little bit more than that. We will be putting all of them up on the South Florida Tribune's YouTube page. So if you have not yet subscribed, I highly recommend you do that. But yes, he even got in some questions with Vanderbilt's quarterback, Diego Pavio. He's talked to Clemson's running back, Adam Randall. He talked to Samir, your buddy over at Georgia Tech, Kalen Rutledge. He talked to Penn State's Nick Singleton. He talked to Wisconsin's Vinny Anthony II. He talked to Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. He talked to FIU's Keyshawn Owens. He talked to the two representatives from Miami that are down here, James Bruckermeyer, who he talked to, and I actually questioned myself, which I don't normally do, especially with Scott around, but I took it upon myself and asked him a couple of questions. And then Markel Bell as well. Michigan, Rayshon Benny he talked to Boston College, Browry, I think, an Alabama guy. He talked to a representative from the team that plays in the stadium that we're going to be at, University of South Alabama, and he talked to them. So, yeah, Michael, I understand. Cold, play the games in Grand Rapids, Iowa City, North Dakota. I mean, I lived in Wisconsin for the majority of my life. Well, I shouldn't say that, a lot of my life. So I know all about cold. But remember, these kids are trying to get into the NFL. I don't know that playing in a Senior Bowl up in really cold weather would be conducive to not getting injured and possibly, harping their chances of getting drafted. This is what they say is the first step in the draft, is playing in the Senior Bowl. And then you have Pro Day, you have Combine, and then you have the draft. So this is one of the places that a lot of people yeah.
That comment. Remember I told you I did those takes and called it the Key and Peele Field skit? He just said, "Are you going to announce the rosters for the Senior Bowl again?"
So I can tell you approximately 500 former Senior Bowl participants are on current NFL rosters as we speak. So they normally send out around 130 top college prospects invited to this game. The vast majority ultimately being drafted or signing as free agents. We've seen there have been coaches down here, not that we've gotten to talk to them because they actually put coaches and NFL scouts and agents on one side of the stadium and media and the fans on the other side. So unless they're down there on the field when we go down to talk to the players, we don't really see or talk to them. It's changed a lot, we've heard over the years, even though this is our first year doing it. But maybe on Saturday when the game is at 1:30, we'll see some of these guys. I don't know. I don't know what to expect yet.
I looked up the box score of that American Bowl that took place last week on NFL Network Thursday night at 8 p.m. So it was halfway over when we got done. Guess who threw the touchdown in that game?
Which one?
The day 3 sleeper draft profile I'm working on, Jack Strand of MSU Moorhead.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, I will keep
that
in mind.
It was a 38-yard strike where he had to drop back 12 yards to throw it. So he threw it from the 50 into the end zone.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome.
So the net yards is 38, but it literally traveled 57 yards in air.
And Michael, I understand cold ? But the other thing is remember, this is the top talent. How many people as fans want to come see this game? And normally in Mobile, Alabama, how often is it this cold? It just happens. Right. They said last year it was really hot. You just never know this time of year. You can get any kind of weather. I get it.
Yeah, and let's face it, this is the first time the polar vortex has touched all the way towards the Texas, Louisiana, and all the way through that area since 2010, I think, was the last time we had it this bad.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how many fans usually are at this game? Not many, right?
That's a good question. Let me see if I can Google that up. How many?
Michael Edwards, that's bad. He bleeped out a lot, but we'll leave it alone for
now. Attendance at Senior Bowl. I don't know. That's a good question. Let's see.
It never looks like when they show it, because they usually do it in clips because they're showing all the other stuff. Because while the Senior Bowl is going on, you also have the HBCU Combine going on at the other field in that facility. And it's like they go back and forth. They never really show the stands, but the stands never really look full in Mobile, Alabama when they do that Senior Bowl. And that's even when it's been nice weather. So I don't know how many they sell. And I think a majority of the seats that are filled are probably by NFL scouts, CFL scouts, UFL scouts. It's probably that type of thing, because it's not supposed to be the uber competitive game that everybody loves to see in college football.
Yeah, right. It's pretty much just about player evaluation.
Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's more of what it is. I think you get maybe like 5,000 to 10,000 people in attendance. And of course, you'll get the family members of the players that are in it. 100%, they'll be there supporting the kids.
So can I just say I had a cool moment today, like I have to say. So Scott and I were down on the field, and yes, it was a Wisconsin kid. We were talking to Vinny Anthony II, and we did an interview with him. And then after those 10 minutes are up, because we did another interview with somebody else, we went up to the stands, and this lady comes up to us and she goes, "Can I ask who you are? And who, what affiliation you're with?" And we're like, "Oh, we're, the South Florida Tribune." And we asked her why. And she's like, "Well, she was his mom. And she wanted to know where his interview was going to be up. And she thanked us for
That's
interviewing him."
awesome.
And I'm like, that's just really cool. Cause like, normally you don't see that.
Right.
So I thought that was cool.
The most interesting name in this one, there is a defensive back from Notre Dame named Jalen Stroman. The other one I thought was kind of funny, and I have to say it slowly because it's the defensive back out of Washington that plays for the American team. Ephesians Prysock. Pay attention to him. He is a 6'3", 198-pound corner.
Okay.
He has the speed of a guy that's usually about 6'1".
Trying to see where it talks more about the players, not attendance here. But let's see.
See, I think it's more by invite for that one.
I mean, they do have a fan fest that's going on in the morning and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yes, any parent that respects the game and wants to know what's going on with their kid before they go pro, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Michael Edwards' next comment cracked me up. I'm sorry. Oh, but you notice I had to say that slowly. Ephesians is a book in the Bible, and I love the fact that that's a religious reference for his first name. But the last name of Prysock with a P, you say that wrong, and somebody's going to hear something they don't need to hear.
No, it's not telling me. That's interesting. None of them want to tell me what the attendance was.
I think it's exactly what I said. It's by an invite type of. You know what I'm saying? It's by invite, not sales. So there won't be like a big thing. Gabe Jacobs is another guy I like. He's going to be a day 2 or 3 pick, and that's the defensive lineman out of Illinois, defensive end. Jake Slaughter is the center out of Florida. The only Indiana player I see listed is Kalon Black, the running back. So, in other words, the other guy must have dropped out of coming in because they're invited. That doesn't mean they show up.
Well, and they're coming off they just played how long ago? So like maybe they needed a break.
Well, I think it's because for Kalon Black, he wants to show he can punch it into the end zone because it was Hemby and then it was the fullback Riley Nowakowski that actually scored the touchdowns in that game. And I think he wants to show that he is a touchdown scorer as well for the Scouts.
Well, I want to say there was numerous Miami Hurricanes that that decided not to. Akeem Mesidor was supposed to be here, Keontae Scott, Ruben Bain Jr. They all declined. I don't know if it had anything to do with they just recently played. They think they have enough tape out there. I'm not sure.
Yes, Hemby is a rising stud. Absolutely, Paul. Thanks for watching, Paul. We appreciate you. And I am not discrediting what the Patriots did. I'm not discrediting what the Seahawks did because they're in the game that 32 teams have the goal for every year and only 2 get to be there. And the guy that I'm interested in seeing, I believe it was Mike Washington the second, is a running back out of
I think I've
Arkansas.
heard of him. Yeah, I think I've
I
heard of
want to
him.
see how he runs because he's got that prototypical size that you want. Or Mike Washington Jr., not the second. 6'2", 228 pounds, and he supposedly, when he was 6 foot and 200 pounds coming out of high school, was running a sub 4.540. I would love to see if he's still doing that at that size, because if he's doing it at 6'2" and 228, man, that's a tank to have. But that's a very large bowling ball with legs. Then.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one that's like 5'11" and 227 out of Toledo that I saw.
Yeah, I'm interested. I can tell you, day 2, the overall distance leaders as far as wide receivers, the top one was Josh Cameron from Baylor. He had 5,330 yards. And Vinny Anthony from Wisconsin has 5,121 yards. So that was just some of the little stats. But yeah, Scott, like I said, Scott's probably interviewed almost 20 different people. Now, I will say he interviewed a young graduate of Florida State University who is there as part of the media. He is actually he wants to get into sports seminary. And so Scott did a little interview with him. Scott did an interview with a writer that's been writing and has been at like 15 of these Senior Bowls. And then he also did an interview with a young aspiring, he's actually a sportscaster out in Arizona, in Yuma. He had graduated from Penn State a year ago, and talked to him as well. So he's got some different interviews that are coming down the pipe, so definitely watch for that.
Another defensive end to watch is the kid out of Alabama, LT Overton.
LT Overton is one.
Yeah,
I think I could. Yeah, I think he could be a mid late second round pick.
Right.
I think that's where he's projected in a lot of places.
And have you heard a lot about Taylon Green from Arkansas? Because
Taylon Green, a little bit, not much, but a little bit.
He said that his arm strength and athleticism is drawing a lot of eyes on the field at practice too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting some of the drills that they have been doing and watching some of the, because these aren't, yes, they're elite athletes and I get that, but they haven't played with these guys. These are guys from different teams throwing. And you talk about at the beginning of the season, how we talk about you need practice and you need reps in the beginning to get the timing down and stuff like that. So it's kind of amazing to watch them in practice, how many balls they hit or they don't hit.
And they're also working with NFL coaches for the first time, so that they can get used to their type of lingo and play calling and the type of routes they want them to run for the wide receivers and the coverage.
Yes.
Yeah, Rick Neuheisel was a great college QB. He was okay as an NFL QB because that translation doesn't always work for some people. But Taylor, I like Rick Neuheisel. He is very smart in how he talks about quarterbacks. I agree. I think Taylon Green may be a good day 3 pick at this point, unless he really balls out at the combine. He's one of those guys that didn't have the numbers he should have in college, but he also lost a few key guys there at Arkansas. One, Isaac Tesla.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Scott interviewed he interviewed one of the receivers, Jacoby Lane from USC,
who transferred from North Dakota State. His twin brother graduated or got out early last year. So yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about because I've been talking about that kid for 2 years. 6'4" and 220-pound wide receiver, big boy.
Yep. Yep. So Scott interviewed him too. That was neat.
Yeah, Gruden does it on another level. He gets more cerebral with when he talks to them and asks them questions that has to do with specific plays, and asks them to draw him out on the board when he's talking to him. It's amazing to watch him break down a college QB coming out when he's talking to him, even on his podcast now. I love watching him do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Guys, anything else we want to talk about besides my town? We haven't gone there yet.
We should talk about something that Scott did.
What did Scott do?
What happened?
He wrote a book.
Oh, yeah, he wrote a book. You're right. He did. He did write a book. His book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morgenroth. Talks about his 45 plus years in the media business and how it has evolved over that time. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. It is also out on audiobook now, too. So go check that out as well. You can always find it, a link to it, buy it on our website. It's www.southfloridatribune.com, where both of these fine gentlemen that are on the broadcast with me tonight write for us and have articles up on our website as well. So go check them out as well. And if you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you haven't subscribed to us. Please do so. And then also go to everybody else's that is on our network and go to their channels and hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you're notified when people go live. So let's go back to the chat room. I love watching you do that with.
It's amazing to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk about Patrick Cantley.
Oh, yeah. Mike Modano in point. He now is the leading American-born goal scorer in the NHL when he scored a goal the other night. And then I believe he had did they play tonight, too, and have an assist? Is that what that's about? Did he have an assist, or did he have a score? Let me look.
Let's see. They did play tonight.
We lost against the Capitals.
Yep.
I'm pulling up the box score right now.
Yeah, he did score. Did he?
Patrick McCain had an assist. And DeBrincat had 2 goals and an assist, and I'm quite sure the other goal was Patrick Kane's, right? Nope, he just had the assist tonight.
Nope, but he passes for the most points. Yep. At 1375 plus.
Congratulations, Patrick Kane.
Yep. Oh, the one thing I did want to bring up that since we were talking about the NFL a little bit, cap space. I was kind of looking at that for this next year and how, there are some teams that are in deep doo-doo.
Including the Packers.
Yeah.
The Packers and the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North are the only teams that do not have a positive cap space right now. And that means that a lot of restructures have to happen. But in order for that to happen, the player has to agree to it. Or you end up having to do like a rebuild type of thing. So I hope for the best. You guys lost a lot of coaches and coordinators and everything else. And I think the only one you got is the one you didn't want is the special teams coordinator right now, right?
Rich Bisaccia, yeah.
Yeah,
that was the guy everybody wanted gone, right?
Yeah, that's the guy everybody wanted gone, and he's the only one left. I'm trying not to laugh because I've been there. I feel your pain.
Hey, it is what it is. It's okay.
It's just funny to hear this, that one of the most storied franchises in NFL history, 13 total champions, championships, 4 Super Bowls. Title town. That's what they are. Is struggling with the coaching staff. I love the fact you picked up Josh Gannon. I don't think there'll be much of a drop off, but he does have a scheme change with what he ran there in Philly when he was the defensive coordinator there. I hope it doesn't affect and make Micah Parsons move back to linebacker again like he had to at Dallas to be effective. Because
I just don't see that happening.
you don't see that happening, but that's what they had to do in Dallas because they switched to a 3-4. When they were a 4-3, he's a 4-3 DN.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go to a 3-4 hybrid like he ran with Philly at that time, it may change that whole outlook of that whole defensive line. And the other one is you'll have to at least restructure Rashawn Gary or cut him, right? Isn't that what they were saying? Because this is his bloated year of his last year of the contract. That's a lot of.
But they're also talking about Dallas cutting Kenny Clark, and we're wondering if, I'm just saying, going out there on a limb, if Kenny Clark would come back on a friendly deal, that might help. You never know.
Right, because their new DC came out of the Philly tree as well. Their DC was the defensive pass game coordinator for the Eagles.
Gary has
to go. He was a disappointment. Yeah, and it started before Micah Parsons got hurt. I think it was about 3 weeks before Parsons got hurt. Rashawn Gary stopped showing up in the stat column except for an occasional tackle. And then after he gets hurt, he really disappeared. He wasn't even on the stats for tackles half the time. So it was a disappointing thing for Packers fans to see because of how good he was at the beginning of the season and the fall off he had. Whereas our fall off with the defense was at the mid-season switch when Dan Campbell had to stop focusing on both sides of the ball and had to focus solely on offense. And I think that's what hurt Kelvin Shepard's play calling the most because he wasn't able to pick Dan Campbell's ear in game. Because Dan Campbell's always been one to talk to his coordinators, both coordinators, when they're on the sideline. He likes them on the sideline, not in the booth. And that's what leading me to my count.
Okay.
Because Drew Pensing was hired as our offensive coordinator last week. And then this week we hired Mike Kafka to be a senior offensive assistant entitled to be named later. So, well, most of the injuries were in the secondary. Our front seven was pretty much healthy at the end of the season. So I can't blame it on injury at the front seven. And Marcus Davenport was a no-show since week 2. So I didn't count on him. Al-Qadim Muhammad played rather well, but in that section when the whole defense disappeared while they transitioned to him calling the offense and everything happened, the whole D-line disappeared. Lee McNeil had one good game, and that was versus the Bucs right after he came off of his injury, and he was a bump on the log just like DJ Reader, who was next to him the whole rest of the season, which is another reason why the defensive end struggled, because if they're not getting off the blocks, the ends can't get off their blocks, because then the ones that were getting all the pressures can get doubled. And that's what we saw. We saw the ends getting doubled, and it was one-on-ones of the defensive tackles who couldn't win. It didn't change until Roy Lopez and Talik Williams started getting more snaps, and they started collapsing the pocket. And then all of a sudden, the sacks started happening again. But by that time, the damage was done to the psyche of what used to be the hunters. The villains of the NFL is what they were calling us. Remember all this the last couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
That psyche got broken. We had 3 straight weeks of giving up over 500 yards of offense.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 straight weeks of giving up over 100 yards of rushing, which we hadn't done all season. And that's what broke us down. And the secondary injuries, we saw in the Bucs game, the secondary injuries didn't matter. We only had one starter out there in that game, and that was Brian Branch. And we had a whole plethora of guys you never heard of playing in that game. And we ended up with 3 picks of Baker Mayfield and made them look like a high school team on that field in their house.
So you don't think the Lions need another Another reliable edge, like a number 2, a guy that can get you 7.5, 8 sacks.
I think we need a complimentary piece. Al-Qadim
'Cause you have
Muhammad got 11
you
and
have
a half
Nabil in
sacks.
the middle.
No, wait. Al-Qadim Muhammad was 9th in the league in sacks, and Aiden Hutchinson was like 3rd. So we had 2 guys in the top 10, and that was with one guy disappearing for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because wasn't it Myles Garrett, Nick Benito, then it was Aiden Hutchinson, correct?
Yeah.
And then at 9 is Al-Qadim Muhammad at 11 and a half. He finished with 1 more sack than Gary, and Gary had 10 and a half sacks before he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was going with that when I said Gary disappeared. He literally disappeared the whole half of the season at the end. And that was a few weeks before Micah did. If it wasn't for Micah playing probably in that Packers game, yes, we couldn't stop anybody on 3rd down, and we couldn't convert 3rd down. That's a bad combination. If you're not converting 3rd downs, you're not sustaining drives. If you're not sustaining drives, your defense is on the field longer, which makes it harder for them to make 3rd down stops. So that is what I saw. And I don't blame a rookie play caller in his first season having a down year on that when the other side isn't doing their job at the same time. And I'll leave it at that. And I'm not saying that Dan Campbell was wrong from taking the play calling from Johnny Morton. I don't know the exact details of it. I do know they argued in that Week 9 loss to Minnesota on the sideline. And the last time I saw him argue with an offensive coordinator in Week 9 was way back in 2021 with Anthony Lynn. And the same thing happened to him. We stripped him of play calling and fired him after the season. And that's exactly what we just did with Johnny Morton. And where does Johnny Morton go? Right back to Denver. Right back to Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I even said that was probably going to happen.
Anything else happening in your town?
The Wings are winning. The Pistons are winning. We got the All-Star breaks and trade deadlines coming up. All sorts of rumors that we're going to do this, that, and the other. I think the Pistons can win as currently constructed. Don't disrupt the chemistry. The only player that I would have on the trade block right now is Tobias Harris because he's on an expiring contract. Yes, I did. On this very show with Samir, and it was one of the first times Adam was here, and it was right after he was stripped of play calling duties. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to Denver.
It's usually what happens when you get stripped of play calling. It's usually a sign of things to come. So,
yep. And Dan Campbell is a class act.
Oh, definitely.
Giannis to Detroit, that is not a guarantee of a ring for one reason. We do not know the extent of the calf damage that he's got with his injury that's been holding him out lately. And at 31, calf injuries, which we have seen with many players, usually end up equaling Achilles injuries in that same season. And in basketball, an Achilles tendon surgery is way harder on a player than it is in football.
Well, and the other thing is would Giannis want to go to Detroit?
Because I heard he wants to go to either LA or Miami is what was reported. And I think that's where he ultimately goes because his no trade clause lets him decide where he gets traded. I think MPJ, the one small forward that's out there on the trade block, would be a better target because you wouldn't have to give up 3 firsts and Tobias Harris to get him. And then there's the other one. His name starts with the L. Remind me, Samir, you might know who I'm talking about that's on the trade block. It's another forward.
Another forward. Plays for the Pacers, right?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
I think either MPJ.
I think you're thinking of Benedict Mathurin. He's a center. He's forward / center. He's on the trade block.
Nope, not him. There was just a guy that's a forward. I think Giannis will ultimately help a team. Yep. And the other one is New York. And the New York
The
Knicks
Knicks.
want him bad, really bad. Yeah, the Nets would want him too, but they suck so bad they have no reason to trade for him.
Right.
Well, and let's face it, the Bucks are going to ask for a king's ransom. I mean,
Right.
and rightfully so. Although to a certain extent, he could be a free agent, and so you want to get something while you can.
When you get him, you're going to have him for 2 seasons. That's
Mhm.
guaranteed because that's what the rest of his contract is. So unless it's a sign and trade to extend him out a couple of years to make it worth it, but do you really want him after 33 years old on a huge contract?
Yeah. No.
So you're
Especially with-
basically doing a season and a half rental when you trade for him.
right.
Mhm.
And then, well, I also have heard some rumors linking the Hawks to him, and it's primarily because of 2 reasons. We have the we have the pick between we would get the highest of the first round pick between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Bucks. So there's a very good chance that it's going to end up being a top 5 pick in a very loaded class. Ansi Soleil has stated multiple times that pick is virtually untouchable. And then Jalen Johnson, who should be a first-time All-Star, there's a good chance he's going to get in, who is from Milwaukee. But those two, from everything what the Hawks have said, are virtually untouchable. And we just don't have the draft capital or the personnel to make that kind of move because they're going to want at least 3 first-round picks and some young players. So that means Asa Newell, who I think we should definitely keep. Zachary Richeche, I don't want to give up on him yet. And then Jalen Johnson, and then some picks. And no, that's not reasonable. And Ansi Soleil spoke to the media yesterday, and I guess one glimmer of hope is that he seems to be committed to building this thing the right way through the draft, kind of the Oklahoma City, San Antonio model of building a team. So we'll see where that goes.
And yeah, even further into that trade thing, they did a model of it on 97 Won the Ticket while I was listening to him driving back from my uncle's wake. And they ran the mock saying Tobias Harris in 3 firsts, and that got rejected. And in order to get Giannis on the Pistons, it would take Ron Holland, Ausar Thompson, who is our starting shooting guard right now, and 3 firsts to get them to accept. And that was using a computer model. That wasn't even the GM.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out giving up all that. You're talking about 2 of our young stars, even though one of them's on an expiring contract. And eventually we're going to have to decide to let some of those guys go. But at the same time, in the middle of a playoff run where you've only lost like 2 of the last 28 games, why would you get rid of them?
I think eventually when push comes to shove, the Bucks are going to have to lower their asking price because teams are not going to offer that. They're just simply not going to offer that. I get it. He's one of the best players to ever play the game, and he's a top 30 player all time, and he's still in his prime technically, but teams are just not going to give that up. So they're going to have to come down on their asking price if they want to get this deal done by the deadline. Or they can wait and see how the lottery goes out or the lottery pans out and decide if teams are willing to trade draft capital then, which is unlikely. So they're going to have to come down on their asking price.
And there is one announcer on the 4 Letter Sports Network that I actually pay attention to when he talks basketball, because the rest of it, all he does is just to clown Dallas. And that's Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. He does know basketball. And he said he thinks the Detroit Pistons have the best roster built as is and chemistry the way they're playing in Detroit right now.
Right. They don't need to trade for him. There's absolutely no need for him there.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So, expiring contracts and young with first round picks is what the Bucks are going to be asking. And I think they're going to end up lowering it to maybe 2 first round picks before they get a buyer. But they're also going to have to consider they may have to take an aging player as well as a young player with an expiring contract instead of 2 of them.
Yeah, I don't know. And honestly, it isn't even up to the Bucks. It's up to Antetokounmpo.
Right,
He,
because if he looks at it and doesn't want to go to that team, he's just going to nix it right off the bat.
Right. Yes, he is a generational player. He is worthy of every penny, except he is now running into some injuries that, and it's not, like, oh, it's going to recover. Like I pulled the hamstring. These are strains in your calf, like we were talking earlier, that can lead to more serious injuries.
Over the last 4 years, you look at every player that's over the age of 30 that's had calf strains, and when they came back too soon, because every team does it, every player does it because they want to help their team win.
Right.
It has led to an ACL or an Achilles tear. It's one or the other, and those are season enders in basketball. There is no coming back.
Right. Well, and I've heard that the Warriors are out there and they really want Giannis, so it could be interesting.
Giannis hates Draymond Green, and he would have to be included in the trade to go there.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And yes, he eventually does want, that is a key too, because he has said that he wants to go back and end his career playing in Greece.
Right. The Greek beat literally said that's where he wants to end his career. He's never given up his citizenship. He applies for the visa every 3 years like he's supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
he's not even what's considered a nationalist yet. He is a documented immigrant.
Yep. Anything else left in my town, Jeremy? Because that's how all this started.
No, that's where I was at. I just wanted to throw out that I don't think Giannis comes to Detroit. Basically.
Okay. Samir, you're in my town.
Yeah, so with that, the Hawks did lose to the Rockets tonight, 104-86. They were down Kristaps Porzingis again. Zachary Ricochet is still nursing a knee injury. Their forward, their starting center Onyeka Okongwu got hit with the elbow from Jaylen Brown. He's going to miss the next 2 games at least. And then Jalen Johnson was ruled out with the calf injury right before the game, so they were shorthanded. It was always going to be an uphill battle to win this game, and the results are the results. They were competitive for most of it, and then Houston just ran away with it at the end. Nothing going on the baseball front. The Braves are reportedly interested in adding another starting pitcher before the season. 2 names they're looking at, Lucas Giolito and Chris Bassett. Starting pitching depth has been an issue for this team the last couple of years, especially considering all 5 of our starters at one point got injured last year. So we need to add there. We'd like to get another arm. And with obviously busy last couple of weeks with the Falcons, they continue to shape their coaching staff. Earlier this week, Kevin Stefanski retained several coaches, defensive line coach Nate Ollie, Justin Hood, who is a defensive backs coach, and then Kevin Koger, the tight ends coach. I do like the move to keep Nate Ollie. He was a big part along with Jeff Ulbrich, and some of the young guys we have up front breaking out and us setting our franchise sack record for a single season. And then notably, we also hired a new special teams coach, Craig Aukerman from the Miami Dolphins. We was with the Tennessee Titans for a while. For the most part, he has produced average to good special teams units. I think we were bottom 3 in special teams last year, so it's not gonna be hard to improve in that area. We have a new wide receivers coach as well, Rob Prince. He's worked with the Detroit Lions for a while, Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, Seattle Seahawks. He's coached in the NFL for a long time, coached some pretty good wide receivers. He coached Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, I believe, in Miami recently as well. So he knows how to get the most of some good wide receiver talent. And then notably, as you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, former Lions general manager Bob Quinn is a senior advisor. It's not going to be much of a role, but I just hope he's not doing it. I just hope he's not doing any more than just advising on the offensive line. Because,
like I said, because in his 5-year tender, he drafted 5 offensive linemen, and one of them is the only one of that era of GM and coaching is still on the Lions roster.
because he drafted Taylor Decker, right,
And
and then
Frank
Frank
Ragnow.
Ragnow, who
Graham
just retired.
Glasgow,
Yeah,
but the only one active on the roster right now, because I think Graham Glasgow is gone. I think he's either going to retire or we're going to cut him just to save the money. Is Taylor Decker, and there's a rumor that we might be cutting him after June 1st if he doesn't retire.
and then lastly, about an hour ago, right before we got on the show, the news dropped that we hired Ian Cunningham as our next general manager. He was personally my first choice. Comes from he's worked under 2 Hall of Fame general managers, Ozzie Newsome from 2008 to 2016 in several areas in their scouting department, and then he worked under Howie Roseman 2017 to 2021. He won a Super Bowl at both places. And recently, he was the assistant general manager under Ryan Poles in Chicago since 2022, helping oversee that turnaround they've had over there. So he's got a lot of experience. He's had a front row seat to what a winning organization looks like and how winning organizations are built. Baltimore, Philadelphia, 2 teams that build their teams in the trenches from the inside out. We definitely need some of that after Terry Fontenot's tenure. And
we've talked ad nauseum about the offensive and defensive line woes that your team has had over the last.
Yeah. Well, defensive line seems like it's making a turn. Cunningham is definitely a good hire. He has been one of the top general manager candidates the last few years. As a matter of fact, he was offered the Cardinals general manager job in 2023. He turned it down. They went and hired Monty Ossenfort. Ryan Poles recently did give him a lot of credit for some of the decisions they've made, which is made in helping contribute to their success, which is the trade back with Carolina from the number 1 pick when Carolina sent DJ Moore, 2 first-round picks, a couple of seconds for Bryce Young. And the Bears have definitely made the most of that trade. They've gotten guys like Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, Darnell Wright, guys that have contributed to their success this season. He was a part of the process that bought Ben Johnson to Chicago. Their rebuild of the offensive line this past season. And then most notably, there's an audio of Ryan Poles wanting to trade up, clip of Ryan Poles wanting to trade up in 2024 to get Rome Odunze because he was afraid that we were going to get him. Because remember, we had just signed Kirk Cousins, so he was, and we were rumored to have a lot of interest in Rome Odunze. Obviously, that didn't happen. We take Michael Penix, and the Bears get Rome Odunze when they stay put. And Ian Cunningham apparently had a big say in convincing Ryan Poles to stay put.
Great hire. I agree with what Paul said there.
I'm a lot more encouraged about that than I am about Kevin Stefanski. So we'll see how it goes, and that's it for my town.
So there is one more little bit of thing. We know that this year is the first time they've made an award for offensive linemen. I have the list of finalists in the screenshot there. Lions offensive tackle, Penei Sewell. Broncos offensive tackle, Garrett Bowles. Broncos offensive guard, Quinn Miners. Bears guard, Joe Thuney. Dolphins center, Aaron Brewer. But the guy that I don't think belonged on this list because there was a lot of pressure coming up the inside. This was the worst I've seen Creed Humphrey play in his career. I think there was anybody else they could have put there that had a good year. That's the only one that I don't think has a shot at it this year because he gave up more pressures and sacks this year than he has in his whole career. But I think it's Penei Sewell's to lose because I just saw a report that he's the highest rated tackle in the league this year, hands down.
And then And then one more interesting nugget about Ian Cunningham. I just found out today that he spent some time living in Roswell and grew up a Falcons fan. As a matter of fact, his dad, when the 1996 Olympics were held in Atlanta, he helped work the Summer Olympics. His dad did, and he grew up a Falcons fan. So um, we go from a guy who spent 20 years in New Orleans to somebody who spent some time in the Atlanta area and grew up a fan of the team. So that was one interesting nugget.
There's one elephant in the room we didn't address that I just thought about it. Trevor Lawrence said, I don't want to play in the flag football game known as the Pro Bowl. And they selected the guy with 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions to take his place, Shedeur Sanders. Really, NFL?
I mean, I think given that interest in the Pro Bowl, and this is not about Shedeur Sanders, but interest in the Pro Bowl in general is at an all-time low. The flag football and then the games they have the week leading up, clearly those haven't worked to garner interest. I mean, you look at the way the NBA and you look at how Major League Baseball, you look at how they do All-Star Weekend, they are miles ahead of the NFL in that compartment. So the NFL, I don't know what they need to do. They need to do something to garner some interest back in the Pro Bowl. And if not, maybe you consider just getting rid of it altogether.
I suggested a solution when they go to the 18-game season, and I think it makes more sense because it gives everybody a break in the middle of the season. You still have the rotating bye week, but you have a stationary bye week at week 9 where the trade deadline is. Hold the Pro Bowl mid-season. That way you don't have to worry about who's in the Super Bowl skipping it. Hey, you do it right there at week 9 and the rest of the 18 weeks out there, because if we're going 18 games, it's going to be a 19 or 20 week season. They can rotate it like they do. Everybody gets that week 9 off. That gives you a chance to trade for your players, give them a chance to acclimate with the team in the regular practices that you do in the walkthrough before they play a game even. It gives everybody that week off except for the Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, well, for starters, they need to move the Pro Bowl back to Hawaii. Number one, it should be in Hawaii every year again. I don't know why they moved it out. And number 2, it should be the way they used to have it, where they would have it the week after the Super Bowl. So that way there's kind of like you have the Super Bowl and then you have, I guess, the Pro Bowl could be like a way to celebrate the end of the season.
That's what it used to be. And as a matter of fact, if you go way back in history, the Pro Bowl was actually the Super Bowl winners versus the best of the NFL in an exhibition game. That's what it used to be. And if they did something like that again, that would garner interest.
Or I've seen one alternative idea. If they were to get rid of the Pro Bowl, it's been floated around on social media like as a joke, where you would have the 2 worst teams in the NFL play a game. The winner gets the number 1 pick.
Yes. I've been suggesting that all the way, and I got the perfect name for it. You could call it the Toilet Bowl.
The Tank Bowl.
No, the Toilet Bowl. Sponsored by Mighty Bowl, the cleaners.
Oh my goodness. Okay, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my town, we've talked about the Bucks because we've talked about Giannis. We've talked about the Packers and them losing all the coaches that they have. Brewers, obviously, their big trade was, Freddie Peralta was dealt. They did get some prospects. I will say they are supposed to have the number 1 out of all MLB teams of prospects in their, in their system. And now getting 2 more even bolstered it even more.
Right before that trade, I think I saw that they were listed that they had the most in the top 100 at 9. So by getting the 2 more, and one of them is a top 100, the other one is just outside of it. So they have 10 in the top 100 this year, which is unheard of. And there's like 8 teams tied for second with 5, and the Tigers are one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously they're a young team, and we've known that, and we've known that that's how the Brewers build. that they build and they develop their players and then they move on because we can't afford them anymore and because our owner doesn't want to, however we want to say it. We're not going to get on tonight's show about should there be a floor or a cap. That might be a good, good topic for, a week or 2 weeks or maybe after the Super Bowl to talk about that, because I'm sure we have some strong opinions on that. And as well as Major League Baseball is going to have some strong opinions on that, whether they even have a season next year.
Right.
Not that we're going to be able to solve their problems, obviously not, but it's a good discussion to have. Other than that, the other teams are they're holding on. Wisconsin hockey is doing pretty good. Wisconsin basketball is doing okay. And yeah, I think that's pretty much covered all of them. I'm just excited to be here at the Senior Bowl. I'm excited to see what the game actually looks like in person, and to see who I might see. You never know who I might bump into walking around.
Because Jack Strand played in the American Bowl, they decided to take him off the Senior Bowl roster because he just got exposed on TV last week. And he basically was the MVP with the only touchdown scored.
Mm-hmm.
So good for him. One of the guys in the American Bowl, he's a day 3 cornerback prospect. But that poor kid, what his parents named him, his last name's Hamilton. That's all fine and dandy. But it's Al Zillion, and that's A-L apostrophe Zillion. I was like, what? Were they failed crypto investors and decided it was hoping? I don't know. I just don't get it.
Mm-hmm. So, Samir, how can people find you and get a hold of you?
You can find me on X at ATL_Samir2401. I post a lot of content there, post a lot of my articles there. I'm going to have one about Ian Cunningham tonight, pretty soon. You can find me on Thursdays every evening here on Fire Up, and then you can find a lot of my work on the South Florida Tribune website. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good. Jeremy, how can we find you?
Oh, you can find me here for one thing on the South Florida Tribune channel every Thursday and occasionally on Tuesdays on Inside the Pigskin. You can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. And like Samir, I write for the South Florida Tribune. I have draft profiles I have put up. I am going to go into depth how diabolical it was, the hiring of Drew Petzing, when I found out that his first NCAA Division I job was where he met one Ben Johnson, and they became best friends. He was actually a groomsman in his wedding, and it's diabolical because we just made them mortal enemies on the gridiron.
That's funny. Yep. Okay, I'm going to go through my spiel again. South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by my husband, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 45 plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed over that time. And let me tell you, it has changed a lot. Go get your copy today. It's for anybody that's aspiring to be in the media. I think it's a great read. It's kind of almost like a little textbook, kind of almost. And you can use it chapter by chapter. Anybody that wants to read a good book about how media has changed, it's also, good for that too. So get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audiobook is also out wherever you get your audiobook. And then if you want, you can always click on South Florida Tribune. Our website has the link as well as these two fine gentlemen that write for us. So go check out their articles as well. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you have any show ideas or you want to be a guest, just email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to our channel. What are you waiting for? Just click it like a share us and then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Yes, and I can tell you, even though we are here We will be doing a live show Saturday morning early, so make sure your notifications are on. That's gonna be a special one, so definitely tune in. But I think it's gonna be like at 7:30 in the morning Eastern time. So yeah, because it's game day and we got to get to the game. So, but we're gonna do a show. So definitely tune in. And then back next week, we'll be back to our regular programming on the network. With that, Jeremy, you always close us out. Take us home.
Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. That's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. We love you. Keep commenting. Keep subscribing. And have a great weekend.
And prayers, Patty, for your brother that lost his house. Keep us up to date. Maybe that GoFundMe or whatever you decide. Maybe let us know, and we'll keep you guys in the prayers for sure. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week, same time, same channel.